Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm Jane Rice-Bowen and I'm part of the Yorkshire Festival of Stories team, and you're joining us in the festival living room this morning as we get ready for the second week of Yorkshire Festival of Story. It's been a really busy week last week and we've had some brilliant events. We're going to review some of those this morning and give you a heads up for the events that we've got coming in the next week. Sita's on location again this morning, so if you tuned in last week, you'll know how that can go. Fingers crossed. It's going to be a slightly steadier Wi-Fi stream for her this morning. This time she's not that far away from our Settle Stories headquarters. She's only just down the street at Settle's Victoria Hall, which I believe is the world's oldest music hall. So that's exciting. And we've got events going on there today, which we'll tell you a little bit more about. We've also got a special guest with us today, where we're going to be welcoming Susanna Jackson from Comply Direct, who are one of the festival supporters this year. They've awarded us a massive £8,000 to help us keep the festival free again, which is truly brilliant. It's halfway to our donations target of £16,000. We've still got a way to go in terms of our festival donations. Now, I think you all know how Crowdcast works. We've got the chat down the right-hand side. And if you guys can tell us where you are in the world, which of the shows you've been to see, that would be brilliant. If you've got any questions about, what we're all saying, do let us know. That makes the whole festival living room vibe much more interesting if we get to interact with you and hear your thoughts and opinions. So what have you been to see this week? What did you love? What would you recommend? What are you excited about next week? Let's have a look. Also, the other thing I'm interested in knowing about today is whether anything that you've seen has inspired you to action. So here we go. This is Susanna. She's joining us in the festival living room, and here we've got Sita as well. Morning to you both.
Hi.
Hello.
So yes, I'm afraid it's slightly noisy in the background here because everything's hotting up here for the Riverwoods film, and then we're going to have a talk all about rivers very soon.
Okay, brilliant. Well, we'll look forward to that. So Sita, if Sita's going to go on mute so we haven't got all the hubbub of what's going on in the background with the setup at the Victoria Hall. So Susanna, thank you so much for coming and joining us this morning. The first thing that we'd like to say is a huge thank you to your organisation, Comply Direct, for supporting the festival this year. Can you just tell us and the audience a little bit more about what Comply Direct does?
Yeah, of course. So morning, everyone. I am from Comply Direct. We are essentially an environmental compliance and consultancy company. So we did start out within three main areas of compliance, and that was the packaging, the waste electricals, and the batteries regulations. But we've sort of grown in recent years to cover a lot more environmental service areas. So we support companies with international compliance solutions. We also have the consultancy section of the business, so working with a lot of carbon and energy services. So some of you from the UK might have heard from the Energy Savings Opportunity Scheme and the Streamlined Energy and Carbon Reporting Regulations. So quite large companies need to comply with those, so we help them achieve compliance with that. And we also have a number of sort of voluntary services that we help companies out with. So companies that want to calculate their carbon footprints, want to go on a carbon management journey, set net zero targets, environmental, social and governance reporting, as well as things like resource efficiency, sustainable packaging and waste management as well. So a really wide range of environmental solutions that we help companies out with.
Wow. And do you just work with companies locally or all over the UK?
All over the UK, yeah. We have about 1,700 companies that we work with now all over the UK. And as I mentioned, we have some international clients that we work with as well. Companies based here that have offices overseas, so they need to be compliant in other countries as well.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's absolutely fascinating. And what's your role, Susanna? What do you do at Comply Direct?
Yeah, so I am a sustainability consultant. So I predominantly work in sort of those carbon and energy sustainability related services. So I do a lot of customer facing work, so going on site or doing calls to understand a customer's business, understand their needs, do the data gathering for them. So for example, for carbon footprint calculations, you need to gather a lot of data, then you need to do those calculations, and then we'll sort of write those up into a report for companies, so that they can either comply with the regulations or they have that to hand if they want to take their carbon management journey forwards, helping them set targets and things like that as well. So really working in that carbon and energy space in particular.
And it's so complicated, isn't it? When you really get into it in terms of trying to calculate that carbon footprint, because there's so many different factors, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of the time companies can become really quite overwhelmed by it. There's so many different things. Not only do you have to think about your direct emissions impact as a company, so what you're producing on site through, burning gas or burning fuel in your company cars, there's the whole sort of supply chain emissions you have to think about. So, from if you're importing products from that raw material sourcing, which is quite often from overseas, all the transport over here, and then right through it to its end of life as well. So the product use, the product disposal, as well as various other things in the supply chain and the value chain that companies have to think about. And it can be really difficult to access that data as well. So there is a lot of aspects to it that we really need to help companies navigate, because it can be quite difficult to do on their own.
Yeah, and I think from our own conversations at Settle Stories, when we were setting up this festival and thinking about it and thinking about our own carbon emissions and our own carbon journey, we just realised that it is a massive piece of work. So it's fantastic to know that there are organisations like yours out there supporting companies and businesses to do this work, because otherwise you as an individual you probably just don't even know where to start. So Susanna, how did you get into this then, and what brought you to work in this space?
Yeah, so I mean, I always sort of loved the environment ever since I was younger. Watched all those programs on telly about the animals and about the volcanoes and things like that. So it's always a topic I was really interested in. When I was in high school, I knew I wanted to study geography. Absolutely loved everything about it. I found it so fascinating. So I did a undergraduate degree at the University of Sheffield in physical geography. And then I decided to continue my education further, and I went on to do a master's degree in climate change and environmental policy at the University of Leeds. So I always sort of had an environmental background, and then joined Comply Direct once I'd finished my master's, because I saw it was a great company doing all sorts of work in the environmental space. I managed to get my dream job essentially, which has been amazing.
Well, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And Comply Direct has recently become a B Corp, hasn't it? Which so tell us a little bit about that. What is a B Corp?
So a B Corp certified company is essentially they're sort of known as being businesses for good. So they're companies that sort of meet really high standards of social and environmental performance. Transparency and accountability are really strong parts of it as well. So you have to go through quite a lengthy process to become a B Corp. It starts with a B impact assessment. And they have 5 different areas that they assess you in. That's environment, workers, community, customers, and governance. And you sort of have to answer questions about each of them, what you're doing at the moment, what you've got in place, how you're performing in each of those sections. And if you score 80 points or above, after you've been through all sort of the rigorous evaluation, verification processes of that, which involves like sending documents, sending evidence, having calls with what's called B-Lab analysts to show that you really are doing what you say you're doing. Once you've gone through all that and you still have above 80 points, then you become a certified B Corp organisation. So I would say if you're looking to buy from companies or work with companies, then B Corps are really good ones to look to go for, because they have been through this process and it shows that they really are making a good, beneficial social environmental impact.
Well, that's fantastic. And one of the things that Comply Direct has done has been to commit a certain amount of profit to donate to good causes and to sustainability in its kind of wider sense. And we at Settle Stories have been a major beneficiary of that, because we've been awarded a massive £8,000 to support the work that we're doing through the festival to raise awareness about the climate emergency. So what do you think about this commitment? Is this you must be delighted about this in terms of the work that you're doing as a B Corp and supporting other organisations?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something that we were really keen to do. We've sort of been on a bit of a journey in the past year or so in this sort of B Corp transition, becoming a business for good. It's important to bring in our vision here. So our vision is a better, fairer, sustainable world for all. And we also have a defined purpose, which is to lead, inspire and educate to positively impact society and the environment. So what we try to do is ensure that everything we do reflects that purpose and reflects that vision, and we're trying to always contribute towards achieving those sort of goals of ours. So in support of that, and in support of being a business for good and our B Corp status, essentially we have committed to donating 5% of our annual net profit to charitable causes or community products that deliver against that purpose. And we also really want to support projects that create positive impacts in relation to the areas that we think are important, and climate change is one of those. So obviously Settle Stories are providing education around that and really encouraging climate action, working together to sort of combat this climate emergency. So it was really, really good for us to be able to contribute to something that's so aligned with our vision and values.
Well, it's been absolutely brilliant working with you guys as well, and I think we do really feel like we're on the same side with this. So a massive thank you from everybody at Settle Stories and from all of our audience as well. And we really hope that the festival inspires people to live a little bit more sustainably. But let's just go over to Sita. Sita, how are you? How are you doing?
It's all hotting up here, and as you can hear the bubble around me, and people keep on coming and asking me things. So Tony, our photographer's turned up, and everyone's just having a chat before the Riverwood film is going to be shown, and then we're going to be having a talk, which is a hybrid, and our online artists, online audiences will be able to enjoy that as well. But yeah, just also a big thanks to Comply Direct from me, because it has been really wonderful, and it's also really good to align ourselves as well with a company that's doing that the kind of work that you're doing. And I know, because I've had the emails from a number of people who've said, what a fantastic program. It's fantastic to have not just the storytellers, but also the scientists, the talks, and the things that balance it. And actually, your message is coming. In fact, I had one email last night, which was, your message is coming across loud and clear. And I thought, whoa, that's because we're not trying to be too pushy with it all, but actually the clarity of how important it is, the work that we're doing, and actually the heart of it being the stories that we tell, both ourselves and others, and therefore how we can actually really take care of this planet that we're all on.
It's been an incredible first week, actually. It's been full on. But what's your highlight of the week been?
Well, I really, really loved the Amanda Rowan yesterday, on Thursday, which was just lovely. That's still available on Catch Up for those who haven't caught it, and it was just really lovely to see her and talking about what life on her farm, but also about the things that she's doing as a farmer in terms of carbon capture, etc., etc. So it was really it was actually incredibly informative. I was expecting it to be more fluff in terms of what we were going to do, and it absolutely wasn't.
No, so I mean, she got well into turbines and
it was just.
But then also the dead stock and
I had no idea
from dead animals. I mean, absolutely extraordinary.
Amazing, really, really interesting, and of course. The Can I Live with Complicity was amazing. And last night we had a fantastic show with two amazing storytellers, Joseph Bruhac and Marilyn Torres. So Joseph is a Native American and member of the Elders Council, and Marilyn is a chieftain from a Yoruba background. And so they were bringing the view from indigenous and traditional communities, using traditional stories to show how important their relationship with the land is and how we honor it. And what I took away from that, which was just so beautifully told in the way they told the stories, was that actually we need to think, when we plant a tree, we think of 7 generations. And what we want to also do is to think back 7 generations. I've never thought of my own 7 generations. You know, what were the 7 generations that came before me? There were a lot of decisions to get to the point that I am in here. So the decisions that we make, the actions we take now, as individuals, as communities, as politicians, is going to affect those 7 generations. And it was so beautiful to have that message coming across through traditional stories in the way in which it was told. So I'm sorry that there's stuff coming on because people are walking in front of the lights to get to the cafe and quick cup of tea before the show starts.
But that's all right, because we know that it's all live and it's all happening. So just tell us very quickly what's happening today in Victoria Hall. Then you're in the Victoria Hall.
So there's going to be an in-person an event called Rewards, which is a film, and then we've also got a talk which is about the Upper River Ribble and about the work that's being done on the Ribble here. But that's also available. If you go there, you'll also find that it's also in online as well, and I'll be broadcasting as well here from online. So those are the main things that are happening here and then tomorrow, do you want to talk about tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll talk about tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm hosting a panel discussion, which I'm really excited about actually. And it's called Stories from the Frontline of Activism. So we've got 4 panelists who've all been very involved in climate activism to the point where, you know, they've been arrested and, you know, they've really been in the thick of it. So we're going to be talking to them about their personal stories. We've got a young man who is he's a climate refugee from Syria, and we've got people from Just Stop Oil and from Culture Declares, people who've been involved in Extinction Rebellion. But we also have this fantastic film which is available on Catch Up, which is called Margaret's Story, which was made by environmental literacy organisation called Idea Stone. And that is also about direct action. Now, have we lost Susanna? Because I was just about to ask her a question. Is she there in the green room? Sita, I think Susanna's gone back into the wings.
Still here.
That's
Not sure how that happened.
I was literally just about to ask you a question, Susanna. So this film's all about this woman who becomes really impassioned about the climate emergency, and she goes and joins in the Extinction Rebellion climate protests. But, you know, her family's not terribly happy about it. Her daughter tells her that, you know, she shouldn't be doing it. And direct action isn't for everyone. But there must be things that we can all be doing individually. And I wondered, Susanna, if you, in your position as a sustainability consultant, can give us some thoughts on what we can be doing on a day-to-day basis to be changing things.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say there's lots of small things that people can be doing that can still have a big impact. So I think especially in the energy crisis as it is at the moment, sort of saving energy is really high on people's mindsets and agendas. So there's lots of little things around the house you can do to start saving energy, which obviously saves emissions as well. So just checking your heating settings, making sure the thermostat's set to like an appropriate temperature, probably between 18 and 21 degrees is about right. Making sure that's coming on and going off at the right times, you know, when you're actually in the house. Dishwashers, washing machines, that sort of thing, they often have eco modes that you can set them to. When you're washing your clothes as well, wash them at lower temperatures and make sure you're always washing with full loads. When you're boiling the kettle, make sure that you're only boiling what you need, not more than you actually need for a cup of tea. LED lighting as well, that can use about half the energy of those fluorescent spiral energy saving bulbs. So if you are coming to replace your lighting, LEDs are a really good option there. Shutting down your appliances when you're not using them as well, so don't leave things on standby because that can use quite a bit of energy. Turning off the taps when you're brushing your teeth, all sort of these little things around the house that you can do to save energy. And then there's the bigger projects as well, which might not be for everyone. Obviously, it can be quite a capital investment, but if you were looking to replace your heating system, there's things like air sourced and ground sourced heat pumps, which are powered by electricity, so it's more energy efficient than gas boilers. Looking at wall and loft insulation as well, so a lot of the energy loss in houses comes because we don't have the good enough insulation to keep the heat in, so adding things like that. And then the solar panels too, so if you can look into getting solar panels rather than getting the energy from the grid, that can provide you with sort of a renewable energy source, and it's reliable as well, and you won't have to worry as much about the costs of the grid energy rising and falling. Transportation is something else as well, so look to walk and cycle and take public transport as much as possible where you can. Again, another big action, which obviously won't be for everyone, but purchasing an electric car is more efficient than having a fossil fuel car, and avoiding flying too often as well. And then I say there's lots of things in your lifestyle that you can change as well, so your diet, eating less meat, buying locally sourced food, only buying what you need as well, so you're avoiding food waste, buying food with less packaging on it, or buying like refillable products as well. All these sort of things, like little things that you can do. Buying secondhand clothing and furniture, so I use Vinted, which is a really good app for buying and selling clothes, so you can sell your old clothes that you don't want, and you can buy clothes for really quite cheap, and that saves a lot of money as well in the cost of living crisis. So that's really good as well. Just all sorts of actions there. Hopefully there's a few ideas.
There's loads of really good stuff in that, Susanna. Thank you so much. That's really helpful. And I think that one of the things that, we talked about when we were planning the festival, and we certainly talked about with Ben Oakry, who's our festival director, was, sometimes this can all feel a bit overwhelming, because actually some of it's really scary. But I think that if there are things that we feel we can do in our own daily lives, and that we've got some, level of control over, then perhaps that will help as well. And as you say, all of those kind of small actions. That's brilliant. Thank you so much for your advice on that. We've got lots of really interesting stuff coming up this week. We've got the amazing Dr. Maya Rose Craig, Bird Girl, coming and doing a talk. Sita, tell us a little bit about Bird Girl, because she's an amazing young person, isn't she?
She's an extraordinary young woman who is... she's 20. By the age of 17, she'd seen half the bird species in the world. And because of her journeys around the world, birding and looking at things, she's been able to really see firsthand the effect of climate change in many rural spaces. And she talks very openly and beautifully about her life as being interested in birding. She started a bird blog at the age of 11 called Bird Girl. And it was kind of like this little nerdy thing that she did. And going in the outdoors and being in the outdoors is really important to her as well, from family's mental health perspective, because her mother's had severe mental health challenges over the years. So these kinds of things have been really important to her, and it's a beautiful book. And she does a really lovely interview, again being interviewed by another 20-year-old young eco-activist, and it's like you're listening into this conversation of two young people and their view of the world. So it's really lovely. In fact, that's going to be a subtitled event, because filmed that beforehand. And the woman who was doing the subtitling for us was saying, those two girls, they're just spot on. It's really beautiful. So it's very, very lovely.
Yeah, so what we're trying to do as well is make sure that the festival reaches, all ages. And we've been doing a lot with schools. And if you are a teacher or a home educator, we've got lots happening during the festival for schools. This week coming, we've got our very own Sita brand telling the story of the magic garden of the poor. And that's done at an appropriate time in schools. I think that one's at 9:30 in the morning. So you can log on and your whole classroom can watch that. But then we've also, as part of our Settle Stories work throughout the year, we've got our Stories for Schools programme. So this is a really brilliant way of bringing live storytellers into your classroom at a very, very affordable price, and making sure that you're adding to the curriculum and that you're, enhancing your students' experience. So have a look on our website at Stories for Schools. Big news for this next week is that obviously we've got our Ben Ockery event next Sunday. This time next week we'll be getting ready for that, and you'll probably be on location for the festival living room for that. But keep telling us your experiences on social media, hashtag YFOS22. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Let us know what you've enjoyed. It's going to be another busy week. Are you ready for it, Sita? Are you ready for it? And again, a massive thank you to Susanna for joining us, but also to her company Comply Direct for supporting us this year. We've still got a bit of a fundraising target to go though, and if you are able to donate, there's a link in the chat to tell you how to do that. Easiest way to do it is on your mobile phone. Text YFOS10 to 70450 to donate £10. You can change the number at the end to whatever you can afford. We understand and we realise that times are challenging out there, but we really hope that the festival is inspiring and educating and helping people to live sustainable and better lives. So whatever you can do to support us in doing that, we'd be really, really grateful. So I'm just going to wind up and say good luck, Sita, with the event this morning. We will be there watching you online. Massive thank you, Susanna, for coming, and a huge thank you to Comply Direct, and a big thank you to the audience for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon. Take care, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.